Welcome everyone to our stream tonight, or this afternoon for some of you, or this morning. Who knows where you're at? Welcome to all. I wish it was under better circumstances, but as you can see, the world continues to spiral out of control. And as my old theology professor used to say, let us continue our journey into nothingness, because that's what it feels like we're headed. So, my beloved co-host, how are you feeling today?
I'm like bewildered. I'm like, I thought, we'll sleep on it, a little bit of dust will settle, and I feel like it's actually gotten worse. And I'm talking about from an American standpoint. I'm not sure about how the international perspective is going, but Americans are really tying themselves in knots to try to support this or to accept it. I am just so bewildered. I don't know what else to even. I don't know.
It feels like our existence is a bit nebulous these days. Really, I feel like we're sort of, like floating in some, I don't know, cosmic realm, and we don't really have any firm ground. Everything seems to change all the time. The rules of physics seem to constantly be breaking around us. I don't know. Maybe we're at like that. What's that point called where before you get into a black hole, but like right at the edge of it? We're at that edge of it.
The
We're at the
abyss, the precipice.
I don't know. There's an astronomical term, an astrophysics term. I'm forgetting it. What it's
Oh,
called.
forget. I wouldn't know that. But yes, and I think
event horizon. Thank you. The event horizon. We're at the event.
There you go. Look at them all. Look at all the nerds.
Horror movie. That was
nerds.
You remember that movie, by the way?
Look at all these nerds in the chat.
We love it. Where are my nerds?
I'm just kidding. I just don't like science. It scares me.
I know,
but
of course.
And I think that's part of it. It's to make you feel untethered, make you feel like, what today? And I kept saying it in where are my Serbs in the chat? I said it, and I said today in the spaces, I said, even Vucic stood up and he said, international law no longer exists. And basically said, we are now going to arm ourselves to the teeth.
Yep.
That's a very significant thing for Vucic, knowing Vucic, and for him to say out loud.
Oh, for sure.
For him, and then I thought that was a good example. I'm not saying he'll do it or I love Vucic or anything like that. I just thought like that's how a lot of people are feeling. You don't know where you're going. You don't know where this is headed.
I have no clue where it's headed. I really don't. And once again, I think like the multipolar world is caught with their pants down and everyone's trying to do damage control. But at some point, somebody on the other side has got to say, you know what? All bets are off at this point. We've tried, United Nations, international law, ICJ, whatever. Now, okay, we're moving in, because at this point, the United States is playing by 17, 18, 19th century rules. And the rest of the world is playing by 21st century rules of law and order, or like at least the post World War II, 1945 world order. Okay, United Nations, we're going to try to do everything by international law. It has to meet international norms and standards, rules-based order. Exactly. All of this kind of language. And now the United States is like, oh, greetings to our Amujan over there. We love you. We salute you. But I'm telling you, the rules of the game have completely thrown out. There's no rules anymore. The rule is the jungle. Might makes right. And even Medvedev said, the law of force is greater now than any sort of rule of law that can exist. I mean, if nobody's there to hold you accountable, what sort of law is there? Right? The reason why law works is because police and courts and structures in society can hold you accountable for your crimes. If those didn't exist, what law? You might have a piece of paper that says it's wrong. You might have some ethical notion that says it's wrong on moral grounds, on religious grounds. But if you don't have anyone to enforce it, just like, clearly there's nobody to enforce international law to the United States for what they just did, kidnapping a sovereign president. then everything's out the window. And by the way, that's why, for example, religion, when you think about religion, what did religion do? Religion said, okay, we have these laws, and if you don't agree with them, and if you don't, if you don't follow them, we're going to punish you here. And if we don't get to punish you here, you'll be punished in the afterlife, right? The big guy is going to judge you, right? The final judgment, whatever it might be. But that's to say that there always has to be a judge. There's got to be a bigger power that, constrains you, that holds you accountable. If there isn't that, what can we say? In a nuclear world, all bets are off,
Yeah. And it's really interesting because I keep asking, and I'm sure we'll get to discuss it more in depth, but I keep asking people in spaces who can't really wrap their mind around it. I'm saying they told us everything. They said Maduro offered us everything. Rubio said, we don't want the oil. Rubio said, we're not putting Machado in charge. They didn't change the government. So what is the thing that Maduro does that they don't like? There's only thing that's left is ideology or dancing or whatever it is. Anyway, I'm sure we'll talk more about what is really going on behind the scenes, but yeah.
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. I think that we have a lot of things to go through, and I think there's a lot of information. First and foremost, in an event like this, there's a lot of information, misinformation, a lot of fakes going out there, a lot of AI pictures, slop, it. By the way, the MAGA crowd is slurping it all up, and it's sickening to see. These were the same people who a year ago were saying, no new wars, no regime change wars, stay out of other countries. And now they're like, yeah, absolutely, beating their chests like Delta Force is doing great things. Meanwhile, the Somalians that they are currently talking about in Minnesota brought down some Delta Force helicopters in Mogadishu. So just want to throw that out there. Let's not forget, let's not have too much hubris for when, people in sandals and flip-flops brought down American special forces, helicopters and things like that. So just FYI. Let's start off with let's get into it. Let's go. Let's start out with this montage here that we have of Maduro, just to kind of get us in the space of what's happening.
We can see somebody being helped down the steps. It looks like that person's arms are in front of them. The person is now being walked on the tarmac. Person, to our view, looks like they are wearing blue clothing.
Their hands look from here as if they are handcuffed. The way his legs are moving, it would appear to be that his or her legs, are chained.
Happy New Year.
I don't really even like watching that.
That's fucking sad. I'm sorry, I'm going to throw it out there. That is depressing. And some people were commenting and saying, oh, why is he wishing good night and Happy New Year? Because he's a decent man. What are you supposed to do? What do you want him to do? The guy is over there and he's just trying to be as civil as he can be. It actually, for me, it shows that he's a bigger man. He's saying, I'm still going to be, head held, what was it, that old phrase, when they go low, we go high. Maduro is like that. I've met him in person multiple times. He's a decent man. He's a good man. He's a man of the people. He's not some career politician or some military officer from the military academies. He's a normal guy. And I think that, and people already are like, he already has Stockholm syndrome. No, man. What's Stockholm syndrome? But it's sad. You can see, you can feel. It's not like he's not like celebrating with them and things like that. He's simply trying to survive. The guy's now like, all right, I'm now a hostage basically. And so it's really tough to see that. It's very, very tough to see those images for me, because you can see a man who, this is the sovereign president of a country. of a country, a UN member state. This is not some, semi-autonomous region that doesn't have any rights and no recognition. It's not an Abkhazia or South Ossetia or Prednistrovia or Western Sahara. This is Venezuela we're talking about. And for me, that is very, very hard to see. But I know him. He's a decent man. He's a good man, and he will act with dignity and honor. And for me, I love that. I love the fortitude of the Venezuelan people. When we read in the history books all of the stories of when people go to their executions and they like throw up a fist and they're like, long live the people, death to fascism, if they're getting hung, if they're getting shot, and things like that. For me, Maduro that's what he reminds me of. And there is no evidence at this point that he made a deal. I cannot fathom that he made a deal right now. It doesn't make sense for me logically. Maybe it's a possibility, it's a remote possibility, but we have over 80 Venezuelan military and civilians killed in this operation. 80. And that's a low estimate still. We don't have the full number. We saw earlier today, it was at 40. Now it's at 80. And I think it's a lot more. And all of his personal guards, I guess there were fierce firefights that went on. He didn't go willingly into the night. But the United States showed what its capabilities are. And I hope the Venezuelan military now understands the situation. I think there's still a lot of fog of war, a lot of fog of this as a covert operation and what's gone on. But in any case, I want our viewers to know, don't be sucked into any theories at this point. Keep an open mind and understand President Maduro had a way out. He could have gone to Turkey. He could have gone to Russia, to China, to the Gulf states. There were a lot of countries that would have taken him gladly if he was as rich and powerful as everybody says. And he could have taken billions out and lived a very comfortable life. Could have had himself perched up with his wife, a harem, whatever he wanted. But you know what? He chose to stay and fight. And he chose to dance. Think about this. The reports that we have, that the dancing pissed off the Trump administration.
His happiness.
His happiness. Because a free man. He's a free man. Look at this. Mr. Maduro's regular public dancing and other displays of nonchalance in recent weeks helped persuade some on the Trump team that the Venezuelan president was mocking them and trying to call what he believed to be a bluff, according to two of the people who spoke on condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to talk about the confidential discussions. So the White House decided to follow through on its military threats. Are you kidding me? We just killed 80 plus people because the guy is dancing?
Because we're being ran by a bunch of beta males.
What kind of country is this? When I think of the United States, it's a freak show. It's a freak show, really.
You cannot be sovereign. You cannot, and this is going to be a little bit wee-woo, but this goes back to Professor Zhang's lectures about they don't like to see anybody who's in touch with the communal divine spark or their people or their sovereignty or their freedom. Can't be doing that. You can't be happy. You can't be empathetic. You can't be cohesive.
They don't want anyone to be happy. They don't want anyone to have joy.
Mm-mm.
Because they're devoid of joy and happiness themselves.
Correct. They don't know how to feel joy or happiness.
What joy and happiness? They get the only positive feelings they have are seeing death and destruction. You see that. The only time Trump is happy is when he's conquering, making money, or somebody's dying.
Exactly. Something kinetic, right?
It has to be kinetic.
There's a large part of me, and I think we'll talk about it more. I mean, Bibi was just here. And Trump sees what Bibi's doing out in Bibi's having his own Bronze Age crusades out in the Levant. And Trump says, I can do that. I have a backyard. And Bibi's the same, but a little bit less so. There's no plan what to do with this land once it's bombed out and the people are gone. Who will occupy this land? Same thing with Trump and his crew. They have no clue what to do. I've watched all of their interviews and we'll play some of these clips, I'm sure. None of them know. Trump, Noam, Hegseth, Rubio, none of them know. There's no next step.
I want to start. Think about the barbarity of this administration. Let's play the FAFO clip.
Oh God.
Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out.
And the Trump administration, the White House account put up a picture of Trump that kind of like, look at this. FAFO. What kind of country, what kind of serious country is this? What kind of serious country is this?
Right. They
This is
know how
that.
disgusting and despicable and wrong it is. So they have to do this whole clown show around it to try to get the retards. And, Trump says his supporters have low IQ. He said it himself. So get these people excited. Get them excited. Show them AI slop. Show them memes. Get them pumped up. All circus, no bread. All circus.
Crazy. Really, it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I don't know. I feel like we belong to a different era at this point.
I feel like I'm living in another world. Or like the conversations I've had today, where I was like, we kidnapped a president. And people are like, good. And I'm like, okay, but the next one has said that she's kind of the same. Well, we'll kidnap her too. We're just doubling down on violence. We'll talk more about the airlifts, I'm sure, because people are asking in their replies for updates on Iran. That's not that far off. That might be tonight.
No.
So,
No, there are active protests. There's gunfighting. I saw a flamethrower being used at police officers. I mean, this is John Bolton's wet dream. This is what they've been fighting for. By the way, for those who don't know, we could do a whole episode on this. John Bolton, Rudy Giuliani, and many other neocons and deep state ghouls on both sides of the aisle have been working with the Mujahideen Khalq, the MEK, a terrorist organization now based in Albania, at providing arms, know-how, funding, weaponry of all sorts, devices, you name it, to push across the border of Iraq, especially the north in Kurdistan, and to continue to foment destabilization in Iran. That's the goal. The goal is regime change. But more than regime change, the goal is finally to capture Iran once again and to have the soft underbelly of Russia exposed. Because remember, those of you who have half a brain know, what was Hitler's prize in World War II, in the Great Patriotic War? Stalingrad. The key to the Caspian, the key to the oil-rich areas of the Caucasus, specifically Baku. That's what he wanted. You take Iran, you have direct access to Russia from below. So if there ever were a scenario for a military conflict or for destabilization or for balkanization, or once again, Chechnya, Ingushetia, Dagestan, all these places start firing up, Bashkortostan, Tatarstan, whatever they're interested in doing. Now you have not only Eastern Europe, you've got that soft underbelly of the Caspian, Central Asia, and Caucasus. You have that punch from below. And you can stretch Russia's resources much, much thinner than they've been stretched before.
This is why I love the Irish. There's a grim, soulless Protestant millenarianism at play in the sociopathy on display in the United States. Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
of course. And not only that, we have, I am ashamed to be an American. My only joy is that Russia and China got all the silver and mining and refining equipment out.
Don't be ashamed, but
it's something, there's something to be said about it. But I'll say one thing about this apocalyptic sort of a millenarian kind of vision. We have leaders who are literally waiting for the second coming, and they're willing to drag us all into the abyss to get that second coming. Whether it happens or not, I'm not gonna claim to know. That's something of faith. But to bring it about by fomenting armed conflict and bringing about it through genocide and mass, destruction and barbarism, if you ask me, I don't think that if a second coming is going to happen, that Jesus is going to look too favorably on those who commit genocide in his name, waiting for him to come back. Just my theological, I'm just a lowly seminarian who graduated, basically top of my class at the seminary. What do I know? Well, I just read the patristic fathers. I know nothing really. But I can tell you this. I can tell you that I guarantee you a God that is all loving, not going to be too keen on everybody starting to spill blood in his name. Just a thought, Yeah, I'm looking forward to when that happens. I'm looking forward to,
Anyway, let's bring one of our Slovene. We have too many Slovenians on the team. But anyway, we'll bring up one of them since they wanted to come on and talk.
For sure.
We let them out of the basement every once in a while.
Absolutely. Out of their dungeon.
So one of our contributors, Gregor. Welcome. Gregor has a very, very soft spot for Venezuela. I've been there many, many times. So I will let the two of you reminisce and talk about the amazingness that is Venezuela and the Venezuelan people and how you're feeling and the international reaction after this catastrophe.
Thank you, guys. Happy New Year to everyone, because the year's just starting. I mean, we're 4 days in and like 2 months have happened already. To relate to Venezuela, I visited only once in person, and that was last year at basically 1 year ago at the time of inauguration. So this was in January. And the one thing I can really relate to that you guys already mentioned is, why does the West, why I don't think Americans as such hate Venezuela that much, but the regime definitely does, the empire, so-called, the people in charge. Why do they hate them that much? And we have the same people in Europe. Don't think we don't. Like, our ruling classes are just Timu version of American ruling classes, basically. They're just a poor man's wannabe empire rulers who are kind of just stuck in their... they're sad because they know they're not the actual rulers. He's in the empire here in Europe. And this is the people that we have leading us. And to go to Venezuela, what really not surprised me, but it did surprise me when I got there. I'm old enough to remember old Yugoslavia, how it was like for us when we still had the socialism, the actual feeling of us being Yugoslavians and actually being proud of our country, proud of who we are. And when I got to Venezuela, because we got our independence in 91, so this is more than 30 years ago. I was, 10, 11 years old then. So you kind of forget it. You forget that feeling that we used to have. Like, for instance, on May 25th in Yugoslavia, it was called the Youth Day, which is basically Tito's birthday. And trust me, that was a New Year's party, because it was all day long and it was really the entire country. And why I'm mentioning this is because when I got to Venezuela, we were there for 5 days, and we got there during the preparations and the celebrations of the inauguration of Maduro for his 3rd term. I remembered my youth, the feeling that you had in the society back then. In my country, I had to travel to the other side of the world, to the so-called horrible Venezuela, where everybody is so poor and so desolate and don't know how to live, and yada, 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 and everything else that we've been kind of taught and brainwashed into by our media. When you get there, you see happy people. You see smiling faces. Even people on the street who, yes, you can see they are not loaded or anything like that. I have to admit, I was only in Caracas, and Caracas, after all, still it is the capital. It is the big city, so I'm sure that other parts of the country, which a lot of my friends told me about, of course, they are even poorer and not so well off. But what I wanted to say was just the energy you felt on that day, on those days, in the run-up to the inauguration. It was a week-long New Year's party. Because we in the West, we get that for like 5 or maybe 10 minutes around the New Year, when in New York you have the apple falling, and then New Yorkers and other people watching it for like 3 minutes, they're actual human beings. Everyone is happy. There is this, and I think this happiness that the West is unable to take away from Venezuelans and also other Latin Americans. This is what really, it is as you mentioned it before, it's kind of like, or maybe it was somebody in the comments, it is, the penile envy. Why do we hate them? Because they're happy, because they're not like us. And that's another thing to go back to. Yes, we are crazy Slovenians and stuff like that, but one issue, and where you can really see it's not just about money, where you can really see that you're poor is today when you ask somebody, let's say you guys are Americans and you're not pro current regime or the previous regime, you're anti-establishment Americans, but still, if I ask you guys, without thinking, tell me, what are you proud of as Americans? You have something to say. We in Slovenia and other countries of former Yugoslavia, I guarantee you, we lost that. We don't have it. We have to think. You know what I mean? While in Venezuela, people, they don't care about how poor they are because they're not really poor. It's, yes, they don't have iPhones or whatever. They don't have the latest phones. But even when you're walking through Caracas, you see, I don't know, shoes. Like Nike and Adidas shoes, same shoes sold as here for 1/4 of a price or even cheaper. They're cheap, actually. It is expensive for them, but what I'm trying to say is they have everything we have, but they also have something we don't have, and that is that collective, we're together, just the feeling of collectiveness, which I think is the main thing that us in the West, this is what we miss most in our life.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and when you travel to Venezuela or other places in Latin America, they're happy. And we're like, what the hell is everyone so happy about? They're not even drunk. What's wrong with them? They're happy. And when you get there, like I said, it took me to my childhood. And I stopped, when you meet people, when you go around, I stopped saying I'm Slovenians, because even those that were like, Czech Republic, right?
You say I'm Yugoslav.
The other one.
You probably knew right away.
When I said Yugoslavia, everyone's eyes, lit up, and they just went,
Tito. Everybody loves Tito.
Of course. Yeah. While we here, we are not even allowed to say publicly. I mean, of course we can do, but everybody's going to be like, ugh. We're not even allowed to say we're proud of Tito, or that we're proud of our, 45 years of our history has been completely erased. And even prior to that, we as Slovenians, because we really are a tiny nation, we don't have any real, national history that we could be proud of. While Venezuelans, they know their history. They know Simon Bolivar. Mm-hmm. They know they've been a country. They've been independent since 1881, I think. I might be wrong here. I apologize if I am. But they've been a country for centuries. And another thing that Venezuela has, yes, there was a so-called revolution, the Chavismo revolution. It wasn't a revolution. It was an electoral victory, which a lot of people forget or just don't know in the West. Chavez won the election fair and square.
Oh, yeah.
And that was it. And 3 years after that, we already had the first attempt of CIA trying to take him out of the country, and they couldn't. Why? Because the country, the government, the people were behind him. What just happened a little more than 24 hours ago, which is just crazy if you think about it, because it feels like it happened a week ago, at least for us, I think, for the three of us, and probably a lot of people in the chat, if they follow this cycle of news as much as we do, it feels like it was a week ago. It feels like it was last year, because so much has already happened. And I don't want to go too much ranting here. And
no, but I do want to point out something that you said, is that you guys had cohesion in Yugoslavia, and you're not the first former Yugoslavian to say that. Vulin said the same thing today. They're doing the same thing to them as they did to us. They're breaking up our unity, just like NATO broke up Yugoslavia. And then now you say, we can't even say we're proud of Tito. They've made you be ashamed of it, so you never do it again.
Mm-hmm. And also, not just the people, not just Tito himself, not the person or the cult of personality or whatever. It's what Tito represented. Mm-hmm. Because, yes, okay, you can say, yes, Yugoslavia was a dictatorship. No, it wasn't. If we had a direct, why we didn't have direct elections? Because they were not needed. Because Tito would win with a landslide. He would actually win with 103% because people would be staffing the ballots with extra ballots. You know what I mean? Because he was that important. And not just for us in Yugoslavia, not just for us as Yugoslavians, because that was our first identity. We were Yugoslavians. We were not Slovenians, Croatians, Serbians, Bosnians, Austrians, whatever. We were actual Yugoslavians. And that's another thing that Venezuela has. They are actual Venezuelans.
That's right. Look, we have here up for everyone to see. So this is Vulin for TASS. This is Alexander Vulin here. And he's from the movement of socialists in Serbia. And he's saying the USA is doing to Venezuela what NATO did to Yugoslavia in 1999. Couldn't be more true, I think, at this point. Couldn't be more true. And by the way, as we said, Vucic saying today that they need to upgrade the military capabilities and they need to be prepared because the enemies are surrounding them. I mean, Serbia also can read the writing on the wall at this point, and the protests and there are legitimate concerns, no doubt about it. Listen, every country has its problems. There's no utopia at this point. But when the protests enter into a phase of regime change and violence and trying to remake the country in the Western image, then you got to sit back and wonder what's actually going on, right? So that's a big concern. I wanted to bring up. So we have this connection here, and I want us to think about what's going on in the neighborhood. And we have a clip here from Marco Rubio about Cuba.
Cuba. I'm learning how to say Cuba.
Is the Cuban government the Trump administration's next target, Mr. Secretary?
Well, the Cuban government is a huge problem. Yeah, the Cuban government is a huge problem. First of all,
is that a yes?
Cuba, but I don't think people fully appreciate. I think they're in a lot of trouble. Yes, I'm not going to talk to you about what our future steps are going to be and our policies are going to be right now in this regard, but I don't think it's any mystery that we are not big fans of the Cuban regime, who, by the way, are the ones that were propping up Maduro. His entire internal security force, his internal security apparatus is entirely controlled by Cubans.
So now the Cubans are in Venezuela. First of all, it's Hezbollah.
Everybody's there, but I want to say this.
I want to be there. Can we go there?
I know we got to be there, but listen to this. So Cuba is
stop everything you're doing right now. That will be his name from now on. I will not be calling Marco Rubio anything else. I'm not going to repeat it on YouTube, but that will be his name from now on. Thank you so much, Harry. I will not say the whole of your name, but that is fantastic. Go ahead.
Listen, Cuba is the prize of the Trump administration. because Cuba now, nobody's talking about it. Where does Cuba get its energy from?
Venezuela.
And if Venezuela now is not only blockaded, but now in an active, kinetic regime change operation, who's going to supply Venezuela with their oil?
Cuba.
Who's going to supply? Who's going to supply Cuba?
Nobody. They said
Venezuela can't do it. Russian ships are under sanctions. They can't do it necessarily, and Russian oil isn't going to cross over as easily, even though they've tried to do that. China has a big difficulty as well. Remember that Panama Canal? You're starting to understand that in the case of empire here, the control of various logistics hubs is critical to maintain that architecture of domination. So Panama Canal, controlling the natural resources in the hemisphere that help to support two other important socialist countries and anti-imperialist countries. You take these things out of the equation for some possibility of trying to overcome the difficulties that are faced by them, including the blockade and the pressure. And at this point, we're in some serious trouble. I was able to talk to a comrade today in Cuba, in Havana, and he told me the situation is tough. It's tough. He talked about the 90s, the period, the special period.
They're on a blockade.
The special period, there was no Soviet Union. There was a blockade. So it wasn't only that there was a blockade, because Cuba had the blockade from the 60s and was able to overcome it through Soviet support. When the Soviet Union was gone and the socialist bloc, now you had a blockade and no socialist bloc.
And even with Cuba, it wasn't just the Soviets, especially after the missile crisis. Cuba then got a lot more support, actually, direct support, from the non-aligned movement.
Absolutely.
Which, again, I, as a Slovenian/Yugoslavian, it was something we were proud of. And this is the reason why everyone, even today, when you say Yugoslavia, people are like, yes, that's it.
Of course, because you had Tito.
Yeah. There was a really funny thing I remember from when I was a kid. Like, all of a sudden, everybody was cooking jam like crazy. And why? Because sugar was literally free. Like, the government was just giving away sugar. You want to know why? Because Yugoslavia was kind of self-sufficient in most of food stuff, including sugar. And then all of a sudden, to help Cuba, we bought like a lot, like a couple of ships full of, we're talking thousands of tons, tens of thousands of tons of sugar from Cuba, because they were under sanctions already then, and the yada, 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 you know how these things go. And like Yugoslavia went like, okay, we have to buy something, because if we give you money, we'll be under sanctions as well, blah, blah, blah. Just give us what you can. Okay, we're going to buy sugar. And then sugar was dirt cheap for like a year and a half in Yugoslavia, because we didn't have anywhere to keep all that sugar, in the so-called national reserves. The warehouses were packed with sugar. And this is how socialism used to work. And this is how it fought, especially, with the non-aligned movement, as that third path in the times of the bloc division of the world. Like Yugoslavia, the reason why Yugoslavia had to fail and be broken apart, which happened, of course, 8 years before that happened to Vulin. I mean, to what Vulin was mentioning, because Vulin was mentioning ZRJ, the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, which is what remained of Yugoslavia after the Socialist Federative Republic of Yugoslavia fell apart. And it didn't fall apart, it was broken apart. Although for us in Slovenia and in Croatia and later on in Bosnia and Herzegovina, it was like, we're getting our independence. Today we know that our whole independence project, it was a color revolution in a sort. We would call that a color revolution today.
For sure.
Only that it was done with the help of the local of the local elites, of the already ruling parties in all three countries, especially because everyone's like, yeah, we had the democratic election and then the new government. Yeah, but how did we get to the democratic election? Someone had to organize that election and put all the laws and bylaws and stuff like that in. It was the actual government that did it. Because today it's presented, like really black and white. We're kind of like, please don't be offended, but we're kind of like getting Americanized in the view of ourselves. Everything is just black and white, and there's just the good guys and everything else, which is just Hollywood, but it's so dumb. Even when you look at all the historical truths, let's say Stalin killed 100 million people. Which people? Just stop for a second. Never mind what we've all heard thousands and thousands of times in all the movies and stuff like that, and even taught in schools. Even when you go with the official number, which is 30 million, show me 30 million people for Stalin's terror to kill in that time. You have demographic numbers. There were so many people living in what was then Soviet Union after 1917. Then you had so many in 1924 at the end of the Civil War. Then you had so many at the beginning of Second World War. Then you had so many in 1954 when Stalin died. Show me where the 30 million victims of Stalin terror are. Just please, just show me the numbers. You know what I mean? But it's, you don't think about it, you know it. It's a dogma. It is religion. It's worse than religion because, as you said, Chris, and you are a scholar of it, there's more actual contemplation and doubt and thinking of the dogma in the actual organized religions than there is in Stalin killed 30 million people or 100 million people. Or communism bad, capitalism.
Absolutely. Speaking about religion, let's play the clip of a little mishap, a little slip of the tongue.
Short one.
The implications here are really great for the Venezuelan people.
He's not the first, but the first one was Huckabee. But Huckabee said this is great news for Israel.
There you go. There you go. Speaking of religion and politics, oh, wonderful. Isaac,
I just feel like the Nazi people are tying themselves in to excuse their like blatant hypocrisy. Here is the press pushing. Here is the press pressing Trump.
You said that Maduro is responsible for drug trafficking. You recently pardoned the former president of Honduras, who was convicted on many drug trafficking. Can you explain how these two situations are different? And would you ever pardon Maduro?
I endorsed, as you know, the winning president, the man who won in Honduras. I endorsed the man who won in Chile. I endorsed the man who won in Argentina. And we are doing very well with that whole group. What the man that I pardoned was, if you could equate it to us, he was treated like the Biden administration treated a man named Trump. That didn't work out too well for them. This was a man who was persecuted very unfairly. He was the head of the country. He was persecuted very unfairly. And there are a number of them. And we felt that it was a very unfair situation that happened to him. He's also a party member of the man who won. So obviously the people liked what I did. And one of the reasons that was done is because of the fact that the party in power felt very strongly that that man was treated very badly. I studied it very quickly, and then I studied it in great detail. I went to a lot of the people standing behind me, and they felt that that man was persecuted and treated very badly. That's why I gave him a pardon.
Wow.
The man was literally shipping tons of cocaine, and literally the measurement is tons.
Literal tons. Is it 500 million or something like that? There was something with 500. Was it actual tons?
Metric
480 tons?
Was it metric tons? Something like that?
I think it was 480 metric tons. That's just That's
But he got a bad
literally a mountain of cocaine.
He got a bad deal.
He got a bad deal. And one thing that just came to my mind, he was also first investigated and then persecuted by DEA and the FBI. And what did just happen to Maduro? So the Honduras guy got a bad deal, and obviously Trump pretty much right now said that he was convicted while innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that say, not just about the DEA and the FBI going after Maduro or the Honduras guy, what does that say about the US legal system that's about to prosecute and judge on Maduro?
Let me give you guys some background on the judge. I didn't upload his photo because it doesn't really matter. But the judge that is going to be presiding over Maduro's hearing, which is tomorrow, is a Zionist freak, of course. And he presided over these very interesting 9/11 cases. He actually helped stop the 9/11 investigations into what really happened.
Where's my cap?
He's an Israeli shill. I can't reach any of mine. He's a shill for Israel. He's a Zionist freak. He tried to get Harvey Weinstein off, and he tried to cover. He actually convinced families of victims who were trying to investigate 9/11. He convinced them to settle out of court. And so and then said, you'll never find out what happened, how 9/11. I actually posted this. I'll get you guys the link. I posted this on the Twitter, and then I posted a link to a non-paywalled article so you could check out what he did to the victims of 9/11. It's in the YouTube chat. So there you go. That's who will be presiding over Maduro's case.
Wow. There we
and
go.
Of course, his selection was completely, it wasn't arranged in any way because, there's the balloting of the judges, right? Just somehow the right judge just somehow always gets balloted. Isn't that kind of funny when you think about it?
Kind of amazing.
Oh, and somebody asked in the chat, don't forget, this is still was supposed to be a thing. What Epstein files?
What's this Epstein thing? What is this?
What is this?
Like, we don't know what is this.
It's insane. I mean, Gustavo Petro, he said we have a clan of pedophiles coming after us. He said, and look, here's another one. Maduro is being indicted for importing cocaine into the United States.
Oh, I didn't know he was a U.S. resident or citizen.
Like George Costanza in that Seinfeld episode, I'm an importer-exporter. I work for Vandalay Industries. He's also being indicted under machine guns. Where are my 2A activists at? Where y'all at? Y'all should be out there fighting for Maduro's freedom.
I was a proud member of the National Rifle Association. And by the way, he was commander-in-chief of a sovereign country with an army. Forget about machine guns. The guy had S-300s and tanks and artillery and naval ships and fighter jets. What is he supposed to? He's supposed to defend this country with a spoon.
Yeah.
One thing, because
like the president of Honduras.
I did look into the machine guns, and why is machine guns? Because it's really weird. And it's weird even for you guys who are Americans and know this better, trust how weird it looks to us. But actually, the reason why they put, and this indictment was already put in 2020, is because by the U.S. statute, if the accusation says guns, so normal guns, then the prescribed punishment is 5 years prison sentence. If it's short barrel guns, then it's 10-year prison sentence. But if it's machine guns, a modified AR-15, not your regular AR-15 you can buy over the counter, which, I mean, you guys know how for the rest of the world this looks like. It's a sports gun. No, it's a it's an assault rifle. What sports gun?
So what you're talking about?
Machine guns. Guess what the number is?
I think it's 20 plus or
It's
life.
30. It's
30.
30?
And for each count. So they can basically just put in there like, okay, we have 5 of, like you said, he was the leader of the country. He is the head of the country. So what are you going to say? Venezuelan border police used machine guns when, I don't know, attacking someone 5 times. So that's 150 time for you. Like, huh?
So if I remember correctly from law school, this is an enhancement. So this is an enhancement on, some charges. So if, for example, they want to go for drugs, if he has guns as well, it enhances the penalty, as you rightfully point out. So this was done, and Thomas Massie called this out. He said, why are we using 1930s era gun laws to go after a sovereign president? By the way, those 1930s era gun laws were just after prohibition. They were connected with some of the legal changes that were going on after that big debacle in the US in the early 20th century about prohibition, guns, racketeering, all that kind of stuff. They are weaponizing the law to be able to enhance his sentencing to be maximum. And at this point, from what I've read and what I've heard, 4 consecutive life sentences worth of charges.
Well, let's check it out. You guys are confused. I'm confused. I think maybe Marco Rubio will be able to answer the question as to why they had legal authority to arrest Maduro.
This morning, President Trump was pretty clear yesterday. He said the United States is going to run Venezuela. Under what legal authority?
Well, first of all, what's going to happen here is that we have a quarantine on their oil. That means their economy will not be able to move forward until the conditions that are in the national interest of the United States and the interest of the Venezuelan people are met. And that's what we intend to do. So that leverage remains. That leverage is ongoing. And we expect that it's going to lead to results here. We're hopeful that it does. Positive results for the people of Venezuela, but ultimately, most importantly for us, in the national interest of the United States. We will no longer have, hopefully, as we move forward here, we'll set the conditions so that we no longer have in our hemisphere a Venezuela that's the crossroads for many of our adversaries around the world, including Iran and Hezbollah, is no longer sending us drug gangs, is no longer sending us drug boats, is no longer a narco trafficking paradise for all those drugs coming out of Colombia to going through the Caribbean and towards the United States. And obviously, we want a better future for the people of Venezuela. We want them to have an oil industry where the wealth goes to the people, not to a handful of corrupt individuals and stolen by, pirates all over the world. That's what we're working towards, and we intend to use the leverage we have to help achieve that.
Let me ask the question again. What is the legal authority for the United States to be running Venezuela?
Well, I explained to you what our goals are and how we're going to use the leverage to make it happen. As far as what our legal authority is on the quarantine, I'm very simple. We have court orders. These are sanctioned boats, and we get orders from courts to go after and seize these sanctions. So I don't know, is a court not a legal authority?
Well, why do the Venezuelans get an oil industry that puts money in the pockets of the Venezuelans? We don't even have that. He said, we don't want their oil money going to just a group of corrupt oligarchs. Where the fuck does our money go? What is he talking about? There's altruism for the Venezuelans and the Americans get none?
Exactly.
They're getting socialism again?
Exactly. Oh my God. Does it just melt your mind?
The oil is nationalized.
It feels like the Twilight Zone.
Here we go. Let's do the next one. The arrest operation. Narco Jubio. I can't.
I'm still not clear on what the legal authority is for the United States to run the country of Venezuela, but several members of Congress and other legal experts have said this operation to take Maduro was illegal because you didn't seek congressional authorization. Why wasn't congressional authorization necessary?
It wasn't necessary because this was not an invasion. We didn't occupy a country. This was an arrest operation. This was a law enforcement operation. He was arrested on the ground in Venezuela by FBI agents, read his rights, and removed from the country. I encourage everyone, I know it's Sunday, people are busy, but the indictments have now been unsealed. People should read this indictment. They should read this indictment. They should read what this man did for the last 15 years of his life against the United States, him and his wife. He was arrested. Obviously, this was not a friendly territory. So in order to arrest him, we had to ask the Department of War to become involved in this operation.
You just said the FBI arrested him. Then you said the Department of War was involved. Then somebody else said Delta Force arrested him. Then the picture showed the DEA arrested him. What the fuck is going on in this? Like, what do we... And exactly, what did his wife do? And I read the indictment. There's no mention of fentanyl. There's like a conspiracy to traffic cocaine, which we know Maduro is not... doesn't... We're talking about one of the richest country in the Southern Hemisphere. They got to supplement their income by trafficking cocaine.
They literally violated the territorial integrity and sovereignty of a country. They violated its borders. They broke all the laws of that country. They showed their passports when they got in. Did all those Delta Force guys, please stand in the queue. Buenos dias, buenas noches. You know, bienvenidos a Venezuela. You know, everybody's just like, you know, hanging out like when I was at the airport. I'm sure when you were there, Gregor, you know. And no, they didn't have any passports. They had no documents, nothing, not even name tags. And they just bust through this place, kill a bunch of people, grab this president and his wife, drag them out of the country in the middle of the night. Wait, you're talking to me about the law. You're saying this was an enforcement operation by the courts. What about Venezuelan courts? Here's a question for everybody. Why do U.S. courts have the authority to do these kinds of things? But for example,
jurisdiction. And also jurisdiction. It's a New York court.
Right.
What jurisdiction does it have over Venezuela?
It has no jurisdiction over Venezuela. It has no jurisdiction over Venezuela. If Maduro traveled with his wife freely to the United States or were over U.S. airspace or something like that, I could understand it. But they were in their country. There is no jurisdiction there. And there was no, for example, ICJ, ICC. There was no there was nothing from an international body that could have, there was no Interpol notice from what I know that had been issued, right? But Jolani can come to the White House, no problem.
Yeah. And Jolani could meet with the representatives of US and also European governments while the actual warrant for him was still active.
Correct.
They did cancel it later, right? But he was literally meeting with representatives of US government who were accompanied by US military personnel.
Exactly right. Exactly right.
At the moment of the warrant still being active. Like,
exactly.
Dudes, do your job.
Exactly.
Let's see what else we got here. Well, we mentioned Cuba earlier. Well, we can check in with Miguel Diaz-Canel and see what he has to say and then you guys are the commies. You guys can react to it.
¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo genocida, inmoral y fascista! Este acto de terrorismo de Estado que acaba de ocurrir en Venezuela es un atropello escandaloso a las normas del derecho internacional. La agresión militar a una nación de paz que en nada amenaza a Estados Unidos y el secuestro de un presidente legítimo electo soberanamente por su pueblo. No puede haber silencio ni aceptación de ese acto de terrorismo de Estado, solo comparable con los crímenes contra la humanidad que comete el sionismo israelí en la Franja de Gaza. El muy oscuro objeto del deseo imperialista es el petróleo venezolano, son las tierras y los recursos naturales de Venezuela. No, señores imperialistas, este no es su patio trasero ni territorio en disputa. No aceptamos ni reconocemos la doctrina Monroe, ni reyes ni emperadores trasnochados. Por Venezuela y por supuesto también por Cuba estamos dispuestos a dar hasta nuestra propia sangre, hasta nuestra propia vida, pero a un precio muy caro. No son tiempos de medias tintas, son tiempos de definiciones y de tomar partido frente al fascismo y la barbarie imperial. ¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo! ¡Abajo el imperialismo!
Very powerful. Very powerful. Diaz-Canal. You know, people, the United States oftentimes says, oh, Cuba is run by the Castros. No. Fidel has passed on. Raul is very, very old. And Diaz-Canal is the new leader of Cuba and passed through democratic and legitimate means by popular sovereignty of the Cuban people. So I just want people to understand that Cuba, of which I spent many, many months, studied in Cuba at the University of Havana in the Department of Philosophy and Political Science. By the way, that department, when you walk up the stairs, you know who there's a big bust of? Abraham Lincoln. Because the Cubans understand Abraham Lincoln was also a liberator like Simon Bolivar and also a forward progressive thinker like Jose Marti. It was surprising for me because, of course, I was American. Oh, gringo. But they said, no, this gringo, he's good. He was a good man. He fought against slavery. And just to show you the open-mindedness of the Cuban people, even under a communist government. Even a communist government can see the truth about American history that we feel ourselves, you know?
Well, speaking of the people, I do want to play more clips from the streets of Caracas since we're now on a hype tip, because I want to show how conscious they are and how aware they are of the situation. So here is a clip.
Y aquí desde las calles de Caracas exigimos que nos devuelvan a nuestro presidente Nicolás Maduro, repudiando los hechos nefastos de agresión, de odio por parte del imperio norteamericano hacia el pueblo venezolano. ¡Basta ya! ¡Basta de saboteo! ¡Basta de bloqueo! ¡Basta de odio! ¡Basta de amenaza por parte del imperio norteamericano hacia la patria de Bolívar y de Chávez! El pueblo venezolano es un pueblo consciente, es un pueblo amoroso, es un pueblo aguerrido, es un pueblo de paz. Es un pueblo que hoy exige que se le respeten sus derechos que nosotros mismos expresamos a través de los votos. Un presidente electo de manera constitucional. Hoy exigimos que se lo devuelva a nuestro presidente Nicolás. Tenemos un proyecto que es el proyecto de Bolívar, que es el proyecto de Chávez. Tenemos un líder que se llama Nicolás Maduro y hoy el pueblo exige a esos que al no tener los votos intentan por medio de la desestabilización llegar al poder. El poder hoy lo tiene el pueblo venezolano. Por amor cantamos, por amor hacemos poesía. Defendemos la paz y somos un pueblo pacífico, que nadie se equivoque. Pero si para defender la paz es necesario agarrar un fusil, tomaremos las armas y empuñaremos el fusil para defender nuestra patria. ¡Que viva la patria! ¡No le fiesta a traidores nunca!
It's getting me a little inspired. I don't know.
Isn't that exactly what Gregor was talking about that unity? Look at the people. They're saying, oh, you're going to mess with all of us? You know, this is our country. This is our project. This is our revolution. These are our leaders. You have no right. I mean, just think about that language. Think about the perspective and sort of the unity. And also think about the political education of the common Venezuelan person. Prior to the late 1990s, Venezuela was immiserated. I don't care what anybody says about historical revisionism here. Venezuela was a deeply unequal society, like the neighboring countries, like Brazil, that underwent its own fascist dictatorship, like Colombia, which was a puppet state of the United States as well, like other nations, including Peru, including Ecuador, including Chile under Pinochet, Argentina, which also underwent a deeply traumatic period of time under US domination. All of these countries had very similar experiences, right? So when the late 90s came, what did Hugo Chavez do? What was one of the big things he did? He not only brought Cuban doctors, he brought Cuban teachers to raise the literacy amongst Venezuelan people, to raise their political awareness, and to bring about a popular education system. And look at the people. Look at the people who understand now, not only their history, but understand what has transpired. You don't have to be a PhD in political science. You don't have to be a political philosopher. You don't have to be a public intellectual or a podcaster or whatever to understand the truth, which is that your country's sovereignty was violated, your leader was captured, kidnapped, your people were killed, and that you're ready to pick up the rifle and fight. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than that, in my opinion.
Yeah. And again, it really comes to people in countries like Cuba and Venezuela. They feel their country. It's them. You know, it's not something there. Like, please tell me, can we come up with one Western country where people would feel irate if something happened to their president or prime minister or a minister or something like that? Show me one Western country where people actually support the regime they're ruled by. That's another thing, you know, that why are we, I watched for the first time after 3 years news show that I used to do for almost 30 years. It was literally, you could say, my life's work, or kind of like, you know, the one show that I did each week, no matter how, it was important for me. That's why I couldn't watch it. And it's a weekly review of what's going on in the world, what hasn't been covered so much in the mainstream news, I mean in the news. So this is, you know, the other side of the news kind of thing. And also just let's go through the week, let's see what happened. And the one thing that really stood out for me was this constant disqualification of authoritarian regimes. Like 2 times in, and it's now it's shortened, it's like, I think it's 11 or 12 or maybe 13 minutes long, but 3 times you could hear the word authoritarian regimes and people suffering under the authoritarian regimes, and us in the democratic free world. This is just the constant dribble. And another thing that really stood out for me, we all know what happened in Switzerland, you know, in the skiing resort in Crans-Montana. There was a fire and some, I believe it's 40 or maybe even 50 people died, which is a tragedy. And it was a New Year thing. It was a fire. But the one thing that wasn't mentioned in this show, which is a weekly review, and I'm pretty sure, again, this is a Slovenian show, but if you look at it in Germany, in England, in Spain, in anywhere, and probably as well in the United States, there was no mention of another place where hundreds of people were celebrating New Year's on the New Year's Eve, and dozens of people died and were horribly injured, which was, of course, the attack in the Kherson region on, what's it called? Korli. I believe Korli is the name of the town where this happened, which is still being, like, it's ignored. How can you do that? Where's the humanity here? Literally, it doesn't matter where it happens or to who it happens. People were celebrating New Year. Something happened. In one case, it was a fire, like just bad, which will probably turn out it was just a violation of safety laws, obviously. In another thing, there was no violation of safety laws. There was an actual military attack. And even when you look for it in the Western media, guess what you're going to see? Alleged. It's always alleged. And one thing that our media does, I forgot how I don't even think it can be done in the English language, is in Germany it's called Sollen. I'm sure you guys, you know the split between Sollen and Sein. Sollen is allegedly, and Sein is what happened. So anytime they report on any wrongdoings of, let's say, Ukrainian side, it's always allegedly. Well, on the other side, even today, of course, they did mention the December 30th attack on which even the Russians at the beginning were like, what are we going to say? Okay, we're going to say it was an attack on on Putin's residence near Valdai, which is kind of BS. That's why even the Ministry of Defense was quiet about those attacks. And those of us who follow this stuff, and let's say on DDG, that we look at this media and the news and then report it on our channels, we didn't notice anything about the attack on the night of 29th to 30th because the Russian ministry was quiet about it, which they usually are not. So what was going on?
Well, I want to play this clip from the mobilization clip. I think the producer want. Let's check this out.
Amado pueblo de Venezuela, estamos siendo atacados por enemigos que intentan usurpar el sagrado suelo patrio. El llamado es a todos los cuerpos combatientes, a todas las unidades de milicias combatientes, a toda la estructura base de la milicia que active la defensa comunal. Todas las comunidades deben activarse y desplegarse para establecer los puntos críticos y asegurarlos. Todas las acciones deben estar destinadas a mantener el orden público y la paz del país. Esta incursión no puede ser objeto que nos desesperemos y que el miedo haga eco entre nosotros. Al contrario, debemos unirnos y actuar con calma y cordura. Debemos actuar como ya lo hemos hecho, como hemos entrenado y como hemos practicado, defendiendo cada milímetro de nuestra comunidad en nuestro territorio y garantizándole al pueblo el suministro de alimentos, agua y todo lo necesario para mantenernos. Recuerden que es una guerra de resistencia. Por muy superior que sea el enemigo, nosotros tenemos la verdad y la razón. Actuamos con espíritu mientras ellos actúan con cuerpo. Así que fortaleza y nos mantenemos informando la situación continuamente. Activado todos los SP3 y esperen que haremos por los diferentes medios del método coser conocimiento e informaciones que sean necesarias. Nosotros venceremos. ¡Que viva la patria!
Yes, that's real. That's from the military's message. I also want to talk to you guys about Machado. So we have Machado, who was positioned as our darling. She's over in Norway still after being snuck out of the country that she's been allowed to run roughshod over. But here is what the people of Venezuela say.
¿Dónde está el pronunciamiento de la supuesta premio Nobel que habla de la paz al ver que su país, que Venezuela ha sido atacada por el imperialismo norteamericano? ¿Dónde estás? ¿Dónde están esos países que no se han pronunciado ante esta situación y esta circunstancia? Nosotros como pueblo, como hombres y mujeres trabajadores, exigimos primero respeto y segundo, estamos en las calles, primero porque creemos en la democracia. Así como nosotros salimos a votar al pasado 28 de julio por el presidente Nicolás Maduro y así como todos los sectores del país reconocieron la victoria, nosotros hoy exigimos al gobierno norteamericano, al imperialismo y a todas las transnacionales que sabemos muy bien que están detrás de todo esto, que nos regresen sano y salvo al presidente Nicolás Maduro.
Where is Machado? Trump says she doesn't have the respect to be a leader. People in America, this is really funny. And I even prior MAGA people, my friends that are prior MAGA said, he's not letting her lead because she won the Peace Prize and he didn't. I'm serious. That's where we're at. I agree with them. I'm saying I agree, but you have to think like Trump. And then they asked Rubio again today, we don't need the clip, but he said, oh, well, no, the opposition's not in the country. So they're not there.
How is he a fraudulent president then? How is he not democratically elected then if they have no opposition? So
the opposition is not there. They're not speaking to the people. They're not making any statements. They're not saying a thing. And the only thing that the Americans are saying is she's not fit to lead. Why did we go through this farce of giving her the Nobel Peace Prize and like doing all of this nonsense? She has an inter-party agreement with Likud. And then Trump said, well, you know, if the new president doesn't want to get along with us, we'll do the same thing or worse.
Or worse.
Yeah.
Which of course is a death threat, in my opinion.
Exactly. And he also threatened other world leaders. He said, let me get the quote. I wrote, hide your kids, hide your wives. But he said, Sorry, I have to laugh. It's so grim. I'm really sorry.
What can we do?
He said Venezuela may not be the last country to face U.S. intervention.
I'll tell you one thing. They were able to carry this out. But remember, when the United States tried to rescue the hostages in Iran, what ended up happening? They got 2 helicopters downed in the desert, right? I'm just saying the US got this. Okay, no qualms about it. Even Marx said that capitalism was great and it was a stage of history. I will give credit where credit is due. This was an excellent operation from the standpoint of military history. Yes.
Yeah.
But
I also want, oh, go ahead.
But don't think that it is necessarily a repeatable operation, because now, okay, yeah, shame on me, we got this all done in this way. But I will say, when it's coming to the next one, people are going to be ready for this, and they're going to be ready for even a greater escalation, right? So I just want people to recognize that. I just want people to recognize that yes, the U.S. pulled this off, but don't think that they are necessarily capable of controlling all of Venezuela. You can capture 2 people in the night, and they did it. But can you capture the country and hold the country is a different story.
I don't understand Cubans either, but I don't have a problem with Venezuelans. But I cannot understand Cubans at all. Also, I don't want to burst the bubble. So I posted on my, let me pull it up. I just posted on my profile. This is why I'm a multipolarist. I said, come on, really? This app is so atrocious. Like, how much did we pay for this app? $1 trillion or something. Elon paid for this app. Okay. I said, we need multipolarity and non-interventionism for remigration to even be on the table. Under unipolar hegemony, any serious push for mass repatriation gets crushed under sanctions, human rights lectures, NGO sabotage, or shitlib smears. In a multipolar world where great powers respect sovereignty and stay out of each other's internal affairs, nations can finally prioritize their own people, secure borders, cultural preservation, demographic stability without globalist interference. And all these MAGAs thought, oh, this is so great. The Venezuelans in America are celebrating in the street. They can all go home. But wait.
There is, I'm sure you are aware, tremendous concern among the hundreds of thousands of Venezuelans who are here in the U.S. legally through TPS. Here is Miami's mayor yesterday. She says the elimination of TPS for Venezuelans earlier this year was reckless, dangerous, and wrong. No one should be forced back into chaos and uncertainty. I am calling on President Trump to immediately reinstate TPS for Venezuelan residents. Madam Secretary, are you going to force these people to return to Venezuela now, even as their government is in complete flux?
Well, Venezuela today is more free than it was yesterday, and it's going to continue to be that way as long as President Trump is in the White House and is making sure that he's protecting the interests of the American people, because that ripple effect will continue to bring that kind of liberty to Venezuela as well. These programs, we're bringing integrity back to them. The decisions are made in conjunction with the State Department, with the White House, and then we at Homeland Security implement them and make sure that they are followed through. So every individual that was under TPS has the opportunity to apply for refugee status, and that evaluation will go forward, but we need to make sure that our programs actually mean something and that we're following the law. And that's how that decision with TPS was made.
So they're getting refugee status anyway.
And they're actually reinstating it.
Yeah. So did anything change?
What?
And, just to push back on you a little bit,
yeah.
The reason why Machado and the Urrutia guy, the Gonzalez, why they're not going to be given rain, because nobody supports them.
No, they have zero support.
Venezuela. They have only support on X. Like, literally, Musk is their #1 fan and stuff like that. You do remember, and we did report it on Musk during the elections. He spent close to $1 billion on the PR campaign during the 2023 presidential elections in Venezuela. He invested $1 billion into the campaign. And another weird thing that I noticed back then, because I've always been kind of weird like that, Musk never mentioned Venezuela prior to that. He was all about Venezuela. He was the most visible person in international and especially in alternative media, but also in the mainstream media, talking about Venezuela, this, Venezuela, that, regime this, regime that. The first time he mentioned Venezuela was a little over 2 months prior to the election. On any of his accounts, anywhere, or in any interview or stuff like that. I really dug deep. So,
Well, I mean, that's Elon. We will coup whoever we want. Musk.
Of course. Where's the lithium?
Up there in the Golden Triangle, right? Let's check out the protests. They get me excited.
We must todos! 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 From the USA! Donald Trump from the USA! Biggest threat in the world today! Biggest threat in the world today! Hands off Venezuela! Hands off Venezuela!
Chris will be yeah, Chris is probably proud.
No, the last voice is my dear comrade. I won't mention her name, but she's I've known her for well over a decade. She's very close, and she messaged me that they were going to do the rally in Athens, and I was like, all right, I'm ready for the videos. So
yeah,
she's the one.
And yeah, guys, that wasn't Iran burning the flag. That was Athens.
Absolutely.
What are the reactions like? You guys are over there. You're in Europe. You're kind of you're in Eurasia. What is you guys know any of the reactions from like the general public?
One funny thing that happened here in Slovenia is, I mean, you noticed, and we did report it, that now the EU is going like, oh, this wasn't cool, what US did to Maduro, and this, some of them even went so far to say not that this might be, but that this actually is a violation of international law, which is kind of like, half of Europe goes, oh, what did they say? I mean, they're speaking against the United States. How can they? Are we allowed to do that anymore? But one thing that first when we were watching this, it kind of like that's stood out to me today watching the show that I said that I watched after a long time. We always try to balance it. And this type of things, this is one of the main reasons why I quit my job after 30 years. I really love my job. If you do a job for 30 years, it's not your job, it's your life. But I just couldn't do it anymore. And one of the things that really bothered me was everything has to be balanced, and how they balanced it today. Because we try, if we're going to see a big demonstration of people in support of what happened to Maduro, in support of the United States, of course we're going to publish it. We're going to put a really sarcastic remark on it, maybe make a bit of fun of it, but of course we're going to publish it. Why didn't we? Because we couldn't find any. Even the ones that were broadcast in the mainstream media, it's always like you have this group of 30, 40 people, and then you have the creative camera angles. Just showing more people than there actually are. There's tricks you can do with a camera. Everybody can do it. Everyone's a cameraman now. It's not just the selfies, it's other stuff as well. But they will always try to make it balanced. So when I watched the show, there were people protesting against the U.S. action. One of the clips we just saw here. And there were people in support of it. And guess what they did? It was actually a clip of, because I recognize it, because I think one of us published it today on DDG channel. It was actually a clip of another anti-US action support that was presented like, see that they're in support of the US action.
Oh my God.
It's just
interesting.
You cannot find it. And of course, when they can find it, it's 3 or 4 people. Of course, you're gonna always be able to find it, but it's not that sexy. So I think they didn't do it they did it by mistake. And usually, it's not even the actual journalist or the people there. It's already done. It's pre-crapped by the agencies. It's the picture you get and what the agency will write on it.
Yeah. I would say just to add on, I would say that there's a lot of shock here in Moscow that this happened. I think there's a lot of also kind of recollection for the past couple of years and what happened and how things could have been different, but how things are very much different from Venezuela and Ukraine. They're not the same. But I think that people are basically saying, look, I mean, the Trump administration is using force. We also have to match that force, or else they're going to steamroll us. So you saw the comments from Medvedev. You saw the comments from some of the more hardliners. People are defending Maduro. Don't forget, President Maduro was here, shook Putin's hand, and was here for 9th May to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the defeat of fascism. And he's come many other times to Moscow. He created the the Anti-Fascist International, which was very big and brought together a bunch of left-wing parties and movements and organizations in Venezuela over the past year. He commissioned a statue to mark the 80th anniversary, a victory statue for the Soviet defeat of fascism. There are wall murals in downtown Caracas to Zhukov, to Catherine the Great, to Stalingrad. I mean, you find all that stuff everywhere. So I just want people to know that Russians are taking this very personally as well. Maduro was a friend, was an ally, and they're basically saying, look, we have to this is going to have an impact on the ongoing negotiations.
100%. Well, let's check into what's going on today in Venezuela.
Una vez más, ayer se le cayó la cabeza al imperio de Estados Unidos. ¿Cuál es la percepción que tiene la juventud, que tienen los hombres, que tienen las mujeres? Pero además el capitán Diosdado Cabello, el presidente Nicolás Maduro, le han tomado la revolución. Siempre hicieron énfasis en
A message from Delcy Rodriguez, and we'll talk about her after this clip.
Gobiernos del mundo están sencillamente impactados de que sea la República Bolivariana de Venezuela víctima y objeto de un ataque de esta naturaleza que tiene sin duda alguna tinte sionista. Es realmente vergonzoso. Lo dijo nuestro padre libertador en la Carta de Jamaica. El velo se ha rasgado, ya hemos visto la luz y se nos quiere volver a las tinieblas. Se han roto las cadenas, ya hemos sido libres y nuestros enemigos pretenden de nuevo esclavizarnos. Si hay algo que el pueblo venezolano y que este país tiene muy claro, es que jamás volveremos a ser esclavos. Se activa toda Venezuela y el decreto que ya fue suscrito por el presidente Maduro, único presidente de Venezuela. Hay un solo presidente en este país que se llama Nicolás Maduro Moro.
She didn't want to take over at first. She's probably going to just have to at least step into the role. She's called out the Zionists twice, at least that we've seen on that so far. And what we know about her is that she's a staunch hardliner, possibly more of a hardliner than Maduro. And her father was tortured and killed by the CIA.
That's right.
So what else do you guys know about Delcy And what kind of like, they're already trying to sow discord within Venezuela by saying, she may have been the one who worked with people. I highly doubt that, especially given her family history. But I don't know. What can you guys tell us about her and her brother, actually?
She's not so much a hardliner. People have made this comment, in the past, but she is driven. She's very much driven. She's a Venezuelan patriot. So there've been a lot of, back and forth over whether she would be, able to step up to the plate. I think her family background, as well as the situation and her deep love of Venezuela, and I would say the Bolivarian Revolution. She might not be a hardliner and an ideologue like others, but she certainly is somebody committed to the cause. So I think she's ready to go down fighting. I really do. I don't have any apprehension. I was talking to somebody who's very close to her, and we talked to a couple friends, one of whom came on the show, and they said they have full confidence in her. So I'm ready to go.
Another thing, because I think this clip that we just saw now, this was already like her second or third appearance on the day of yesterday, basically. Her first one, if you remember it, that wasn't faked. She was so emotional. She was on the edge of tears. I think she was actually even crying, because I think we didn't see her face. It was just the audio. So I doubt, even, with all this potential criticism of her, or saying, yeah, she was in on it, I really doubt she was. But I cannot say the same for the defense minister, because look, as good and as well prepared as this operation, of course, was and might have been, and yada yada yada, it doesn't happen unless the other side is willing, is a willing participant. It doesn't happen like this. Where was the? I mean, we've been reporting on it for months, about the extra training and the buildup of the U.S. forces and yada, 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 and the Venezuelan responses, their constant military training. And remember, like a month ago, they were already putting up roadblocks.
Yep.
Because it's so mountainous here, and especially the part around Caracas. Basically, you need to put 2 roadblocks, and Caracas is cut off from the rest of the country. It's the geography of this part of Venezuela, and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, during this thing, everyone was fast asleep in Maduro's. Although we already, have the latest number was 80, and it's probably already higher now. And it definitely is going to be higher, the number of people killed in the actual incursion. But where was the AD? It was turned off. Mm-hmm. And where were 5,000 manpads? The Iglas. I think they literally, a couple of months ago, they sent them to Russia, basically to get retooled, to get upgraded.
And they were all trained,
Yeah, and they were all trained, and they also gave it around, not just to the military. They also gave it around to different militias and so on. So the country is packed with AD weaponry. Where was it?
Well, I would say that, listen, this as you clearly saw, this is over 100 aircrafts participated in this operation.
Yeah, Trump said they shut everything down. Electricity. I worked on those planes, the Growlers. They can shut the air defense off, and they've been circling around Caracas and off the shore for a while, picking up those frequencies and finding out what's jammed. So they shut down the whole grid.
They jammed. They shut down the whole grid. They were able then to take out. They actually fired upon whatever air defense. So imagine. The whole coastline of Venezuela is covered in air defense. They only needed a small strip of land to go in there, and you saw the helicopters. They went basically single.
Yeah.
So for me, that's what I can because I've been in war before, because I was a U.S. Army officer, because I fought in Syria. I know what happens when you take out communications or you have communication lapses. And I was in a situation where we were in a firefight and we had no communications on our frequencies to our other, the other bases around us. We were completely isolated and we were being attacked by Daesh. We had no communications. So what did we decide to do? We decided to go radio silent and not to fight back because we didn't want to reveal our location. We were all alone. We had no cover. We had no air support. We had nothing. And thank God the sandstorm was bad enough that we never revealed our location and we never got the bombing that was probably going to come for us, these suicide bombers. So I just want to say that in the fog of war, in a type of scenario where you have comms jammed, people are in the dead of night, you're still in the New Year's holiday. So you're not necessarily at the preparedness, at the readiness.
You guys all know how Spanish people party.
Oh, come on. I mean,
party for days.
Absolutely. So I'm just trying to say that they killed people. So in those initial moments, and this whole operation, from what we now have, less than 40 minutes really altogether. 40 minutes in and out. You take those helicopters, and because Caracas is right on the coast. You know that, Gregor. If Caracas was inland, if Caracas was 200-300 kilometers more inland, I think there would have been even more of a firefight. But because it's so close, it's right over that little mountain range. You cut that path in, and even if they had a few collaborators, you cut that path in. You shut off communications. Nobody knows what's going on. It's the dead of night. Some guy's smoking a cigarette, watching a TV show. Who knows what's going on? You know what it's like out there. So by the time people knew what was happening, it was already over. It was already over. Certainly,
let's leave it for the next time, and maybe because these things will come out. They always do, and we're usually among the first to report them.
For sure.
But just look again. This is a military that's been in constant state of heightened, like the highest alert for months now. And they're also training and stuff like that, and yada, yada, yada. And of course, how do you know you're under attack? Your comms go out. So no, you don't panic. Your situation that you described, that was something completely different. Here we're talking about a military in its own turf, in its own ground, doing its job in the system of national defense. That's one thing that I noticed that is really lacking. I don't mean you two guys, and you guys are both not grunts, but actual military people, ex-military. But there's one big difference between United States and so-called continental armed forces. Everybody on the continent, I'm talking Europe and even in South America, everyone is training and preparing to protect their country.
Mm-hmm.
That's like the basics of the military doctrine and how you train and everything and how you think about it. While USA, yes, has you're the island chain guys, and the entire doctrine of US military is we don't defend, we attack. Even when we defend, because of course everything is defensive.
Well, speaking of the U.S.,
let's take this scenario, because I just want to play this 1 second. Gregor, you remember when the heroic Serbian armed forces shut down the F-117 Nighthawk, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, so they had I think it was an old Soviet.
SS-21 naval.
Yeah, they had an old Soviet one. They were able to lock in and they were able to take it out. Okay, imagine now, it's dead of night. January 3rd, early morning, you have an Igla, say, hypothetically. You have no lights and you have no communications and you don't know whose helicopters those are. You don't know what's going on. That's what I'm just trying to understand from a military perspective. I'm just a normal soldier with an Igla. I hear helicopters overhead. I have no communications. I have no electricity. The helicopters are completely dark. I don't know if my president's on there. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if they're Russian. I don't know what they are. It could be a secret operation I don't know about. So if I got that Igla, what am I shooting down? I don't even know. I have no command. I have no orders. I'm just trying to say that there could have been a fog of war. And one helicopter was damaged, by the way, from what we know. One helicopter came back with damage, according to the U.S. I'm just trying to say, in such a quick acting operation, A normal soldier, if they took it out, they would suffer the consequences if it was friendly fire or something like that. I don't know if a normal soldier is going to take that risk without having a command, without knowing full well whose helicopter are what's going on. I don't know. By the way, remember, they just shut down. Okay, we don't know for sure 100%, although President Putin apologized. You remember when they shut down that Azerbaijan airplane? Oh, I'm just saying, I don't know if heads rolled, but I guarantee you somebody's head rolled for that. You just shut down a civilian airplane. We've had a lot of civilian airplanes shut down. I'm just saying, a soldier has to think twice about taking an action like that. If they don't know, it's not daytime where they see a Black Hawk or a Chinook and they're like, oh, that's not one of ours. We're going to take it down. It's pitch dark out there. They don't know what's going on.
Look, despite pitch dark, and again, we're talking about AD personnel. And even if we're talking about like your grunts, someone carrying an Igla, let's say one of you guys was there on the ground, you are preparing for it. It doesn't matter if the comms go out and you're forgetting about there's a non-crackable World War II technology that everyone uses nowadays, especially the Russians did. You just put landlines. Like literally the old school that then the Western media and experts mock. Yeah, dude, it's uncrackable. You cannot EV this thing. Everything else can be taken out. This cannot be. I mean, you can't. You need scissors. You need to cut the wire. That's how you take it out. So this is what I'm talking about. But okay, even if it's like that, you see an AH-1 Viper, Cobra.
What? Okay. I'm like
shooting at the ground. What do? You shoot back at it. And I'm pretty sure that this is one of the Cobras. I'm pretty sure we're gonna get the information eventually that it was one of the Cobras, and it was probably damaged by rifle fire or something like that.
Rifle or Dutch rifle.
Yeah, because even if it was a manpad, even if it misses, it hits hard enough that it's not going to be able to fly to do the return trip of 250, 300 kilometers. It just won't.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to crash land, and there's Black Ops. There's Black Hawks waiting just for that situation that they pick the crew and whatever in that case. So if they really in and out with only one slightly damaged attack helicopter, come on, guys.
No, I know. There's a lot,
especially with the amount of birds in the air.
Yeah.
It was 150 plus, more than 150.
All right, let's agree to disagree. Okay,
yeah,
anyway, moving on to we're talking about fog of war. Let's move on to the next theater. Rubio, what are we calling him? Narco Jubio said that no more Hezbollah in Iran or in Venezuela. All has been cured, at least in the Western Hemisphere. But what's happening? I have the charts. They're on the large account. I posted them maybe an hour or two ago of the flights heading into the UK. People thought, oh, they're picking up the gold. Honey, they're not picking up the gold. They only need one C-17 to pick up that gold. Okay? They don't need 5. They don't need 10. They are getting ready to go back to war with Iran.
What did Rubio say about Iran?
He said there's no more Hezbollah, no more Iranian influence in Venezuela.
And don't forget, what started like less than a week ago? What started in Iran again?
The color revolution, attempted color revolution.
No, it's not a color. It's spontaneous civilian protest.
Right. Mike Huckabee, or not, or Mike Pompeo. They're all the same person. Mike Pompeo said that, God bless the Mossad agents walking side by side. Well, this should give the two of you some PTSD flashbacks.
I'm not even going to play around anymore. Hit me with the works. Iraq, Venezuela, go! We're giving them full opportunity to do it the easy way. And when it doesn't work, we'll do it the hard way.
If we could do things the easy way, that's fine.
And we have to do it the hard way, that's fine too.
Chemical weapons is a threat to the United States.
Fentanyl poses a chemical weapons threat to the United States.
Al-Qaeda terrorists inside Iraq.
Al-Qaeda of our hemisphere.
If we can get rid of Saddam, it could really begin to transform the region.
There's an opportunity to transform the entire region.
Bringing freedom and democracy.
Democracy and freedom can serve as a
beacon of hope.
Shock
and awe.
First as tragedy, then as farce. As somebody wise, much wiser than me, once said. There we go. There we go.
You can't even make this up. And you guys think that Venezuela won't become a quagmire like Iraq? If you guys understand what they're trying to do, they're trying to foment a war or something in Venezuela and have it drift across to the Middle East.
And not just the Middle East. First, it's like this particular point, Venezuela, it's about the entire Latin America. It's not just about Venezuela.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. There's only 3 countries left in Latin America that pose a big resistance to the U.S. imperial plans and domination in the hemisphere. Venezuela, Cuba, and Nicaragua. All 3 of which John Bolton in the first Trump administration called the Troika of Tyranny. As the dominoes fall, so too America will be able to reassert itself as a dominant power. But I will say, and I said this today on Jackson's Legitimate Targets episode, which is going to come out this week.
Oh, wow. You're a real celebrity now.
Chris, you're everywhere. It's impossible to keep up with
Chris is everywhere. I wake up, another Chris appearance. I wake up, another Chris. It's so great.
But I will say this. They are going to rekindle the specter, they say like reignite, harken back. We're gonna call it from the abyss. That specter of the golden age of guerrilla warfare in Latin America. And it's
Chris is gonna be in a jungle in like 10 days.
I hope not yet, not so soon, but we might be. Who knows? Listen, I just want to say this. Hypothetically, United States, say it knocks out Venezuela, regime change, Cuba, regime change, Nicaragua, I don't think yet, but they're going to go for that last. If that happens, you've got thousands of FARC fighters, you've got thousands of ELN fighters, you've got a whole slew of fighters from various Marxist, socialist, indigenous resistance groups that have been fighting in Latin America for decades. And all of them have had some level of training, some even greater than others, trained by the Soviets, trained by Gaddafi, trained by PFLP, trained by Abu Nidal, trained by Hezbollah, who knows who. They've gone, some of them have fought in Lebanon against Israel. This is well known. Sandinistas fought alongside the PFLP in Lebanon and trained in the Bekaa Valley. I just want you to know, these are people who are going to make the Latin American scenario look like Fallujah, look like Iraq with IEDs. They're going to bomb pipelines. They're going to bomb refineries. They're going to bomb. I'm just saying, people have to be aware. If they think the United States is going to walk in there and take everything and nobody's going to fire a shot, good luck. Good luck. Because there's going to be serious resistance.
Breaking. The Israeli small cabinet has agreed on a new military mission, Operation Iron Strike. The small cabinet discussed the most suitable day and time for the attack. The target and details of the operation have not been disclosed.
It's going to be Lebanon.
Here we go.
Right? It's Lebanon. It cannot be anything else but Lebanon, right?
It's not Iran yet. The violence in Iran is on an upswing. It's getting more violent as the nights go on. Last night they had improvised. Well, first they shut down a few Molotov cocktail sort of like assembly lines, and last night they had improvised flamethrowers. They were lighting security forces on fire.
See that police officer
or
that
their bikes
on the bike lit on fire.
It's insane. It's insane.
What did Huckabee say? God bless the Mossad
agents. Well, God bless the protesters in the streets, and God bless the Mossad agents walking next to them.
But I have let's put on the tin hats again.
Yes.
Why is this line of protests in Iran not so successful as the previous two were? Well, what happened half a year ago in Iran, and what caught the Iranians with their pants down, so to speak? It wasn't the stuff coming out of Israel and flying over, the half of Arab Peninsula. I mean, half of Western Asia. It was the stuff that was in the country. It was the worst damage was done by drones that were actually same thing as what was it, spider's web. How could spider's web happen? Because they were brought in with trucks. They flew 3-4 kilometers max. What happened in Iran back then? What happened to the AD? It was drones launched from 500 meters or 5 kilometers away that got it out. And what did the Iranian government do after that? They did a crackdown on all the Mossad and other foreign interest representatives, let's call them like that.
Mm-hmm.
So why is the spontaneous revolution of dignity or whatever is this supposed to be called this time not working? Because they don't have the personnel anymore.
They've been
it just doesn't work.
You can tell they're very spread out. They're very sporadic. They kind of can't get the network to sort of connect itself together.
Yeah.
It's just not coming together the way they hope it will be. And that's why they're talking about going in and kidnapping the Ayatollah.
I also think
and they also lack, in people doing the crazy stuff, which we just mentioned. The guy with the homemade flamethrower.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty crazy. That's pretty out there. But in the previous time, there was 50 guys like that.
Yeah.
I would also say that Iranians, talking to family, talking to friends in Iran, Iranians are very worried about. Listen, not everybody agrees with the government. People are unhappy with the economy. I understand that. It's natural. Even people who are in the government are saying things like that. The main problem is this: they know if they go down this path of violent regime change, even the government said protesting is fine, rioting and killing security personnel and destroying property is not okay. If they go down this path, they know what could happen. Syria 2.0, Iraq 2.0, they could be in a world of trouble over there. And people don't want to be in a situation where they have a civil war on their hand. Because this government is not also going to go quietly into the night. And it has a lot of support from military establishment and from people with weapons, right? I mean, you're talking about some of the fighters have fought in Iraq, have fought in Syria, have fought in other theaters, have a lot of experience. You think that this is going to be easy? Is this going to be, a de-Baathification? And we're going to walk in there and the Republican guards are going to put their guns down? I don't think so.
Well, let's get to the super chats. It's been 2 hours. I'm talked out.
Wow.
I always start this nice stuff for the producer because he needs encouragement, words of affirmation. So if you guys love the intro and you love the production, please tell the producer how much, because we don't feed him or pay him or anything. He's just chained to a radiator with a laptop. So if you guys could give him positive reinforcement. I love this. No rules-based disorder. I think I might steal that for a podcast title or something. I finally got my answer about Fuentes' ideology. He is a shape-shifting subversive who is pro-Judeo empire. Ben Shapiro is probably grinning somewhere. I'm fighting with the Groypers a little bit. I'm not going to say I don't get personal or discount somebody because of one shitty opinion or whatever, but their opinions on this Venezuela thing are wrong. Thank you for your support, Rohima. And North Korea not being invaded, having nukes. Yeah. Kim's sleeping at night. Kim's not getting kidnapped in the middle of the night. Or their balance sheets, sovereign banks like China. Correct. So you got somebody asked during the stream. No, Venezuela did not have a central bank connected to the system. They had their own unique central bank. It would be the same, I think. I don't know that it would be as violent or as bloody.
The events would be the same, just the presentation would be different.
I think so. They like to do it, we're going to bomb you, but we'll put rainbow flags on it to make you feel better. And then we'll have a pride.
And you're getting bombed by a woman. So
yeah, you're getting bombed by an Afro-American woman during Pacific Islander Pride Month or something like that.
Yeah. You should feel proud. Yeah. we're making history here.
You're a part of history. Don't be ashamed to be an American. We don't have anything to be ashamed of. Call out your leaders, point out what they're doing wrong. Understand that you have more in common with somebody right now in a building in Venezuela wondering where their president is and what's happening than you do with Elon Musk. Okay. We need solidarity across. I don't want to say working class. It's not just working class. It's just we need solidarity amongst regular people.
It's just normal people. That's what it is. We're all the same people.
MEK, who do you think you're talking to on X? The MEK, probably. They're all sitting there. They're bots. They run bot farms in Albania.
They do. It's a huge operation organized and, by the way, financed by the American taxpayer. Just want to let you all know you are helping to finance those bot farms in Albania.
White countries are under occupational rule. I think he means the Jews, by people that wrote a book and they believe we are characters from this book, Gog and Magog. It's weird and crazy. I know what you're trying to say. And yes, it's very weird and crazy. But I'm going to suggest that you go. I will tell you this. All of the things that you're feeling and seeing and you're saying, this isn't right. Or does it feel right? Or like something's creepy. Go watch Professor Zhang and it will like help you sort of visualize all of the things that you're feeling and seeing that you're like, this is wee-woo stuff. I don't know what's going on. It really, really helped me get a more holistic understanding. I assigned this to you guys for homework today. Watch John Pilger's The War on Democracy. It talks about the first coups we tried to stage in Venezuela. Very, very enlightening documentary. Yugoslavia was great sports power before that. They still are a great sports power. That was one of the reasons they got broken up. They were too good at
sports. Only reason. That's the only reason.
Like, basketball.
Dear American friends, the dream team doesn't happen if you don't make sure we're not there.
Exactly. Thank you so much for your compliments. Oh, go ahead.
I mean, you barely won against Croatia. That was just Croatia in the finals.
The only thing that makes sense in arresting Maduro is the same reason why Ro Khanna donors are angry at him for supporting. I don't know anything about what's going on in California, so I solidarity in the California struggle. Everybody disagrees with me at least once, so it's okay. You can't always be right.
Correct.
They're all war criminals. Like I gave away a $50 certificate yesterday to somebody who could name the only country that's benefited from an American intervention, and it was Israel. So it was like a trick. So maybe we'll do, if you can name an American president that hasn't been a war criminal, we'll give you a gift certificate to the store. Anyway, guys, we're going to try to be back on Wednesday. I'm emailing Professor Zhang. I finally got his contact. So manifest that for me. Other than that, I don't know if we have anything. I'm glad that Gregor finally joined us. Oh, Chris says the happy. And yeah, he's Michelangelo. How about that?
That's me.
We'll see you guys on Wednesday. Things aren't going to get any better. So just try to keep laughing instead of crying. And we're all in this together. You have more in common with Susanna in the basement in Venezuela than you do with Jeff Bezos. Never forget that.
100%.
Never forget that.
That's an amazing woman. So, solidarity.
Exactly. All right, guys, we love you. Have a good rest of your weekend. Keep reading, keep watching documentaries, keep staying informed, question everything, and don't listen to the MAGA slop. Bye.